And so with that being said, here's what I want to talk to you about tonight. Sometimes you just need to start. That's right. You just need to start. And so chances are you probably got something that you've been wanting to do, you've been meaning to do, you've been putting it off, and you've been coming up with all types of excuses as to why you haven't moved forward yet. And so I don't know what it is that you've been wanting to start. Maybe you've been wanting to start a business. Maybe you've been wanting to start a new career. Maybe you think about going to get another degree. Maybe you've been wanting to become a published author. But chances are there's probably something that you've been wanting to start. You've been having some great conversations about it, but guess what? You still haven't taken any action. And when people ask you, well, why don't you start? You start coming up with all types of excuses. You say, well, I don't know if I have the resources. I don't know if I have the connections. I don't know if I can really do this on my own. Well, I don't want to mess up my credit, or I don't think I have enough credit, or, I'm still waiting to try to get that loan, or, I don't think it's the right timing yet. I'm going to wait for the kids to get a little older, or I'm too young, or I'm too old. And so we come up with all these excuses as to why we don't get started. And all we're doing in the meantime is postponing our dream. All we're doing in the meantime is postponing our destiny. And like my friend Stacy NC Grant would say, that what you're doing is you're delaying your destiny right now. And so I believe, and I truly believe, that every single one of us, that we would literally be able to significantly increase our level of happiness in our life if we stop postponing and delaying our goals and our dreams and coming up with really sophisticated reasons as to why we don't start. And so one of the things I'm clear of, though, however, is one of the most difficult things that you will have to do when it comes to going after your goals and your dreams is simply starting. And I know that's crazy sounding, but literally, to me, when I look back and I reflect in my life and I look at the different stages of my life, I realized in so many ways that one of the most difficult things that I did in many phases in my life was to actually start. And so I think about this Thursday night Show Up for Your Life motivational live stream, as well as conference call. And this has literally been taking place now. I've been doing this motivational live stream and conference call now for over 5 years. I want you to think about that. That means over 5 years, I've had to deliver this message every single week. And so that means every single week, I've got to come up with a new message. I have delivered this message in airports. I've delivered this Thursday motivational message in different countries. I've delivered this message literally while I was in Costa Rica. I've delivered the message before while I was in Jamaica. I delivered the message before while I was in Haiti. I mean, I've delivered this message in different countries. And not only that, but we've been blessed and so fortunate that literally hundreds and literally thousands of people overall have had an opportunity to listen on this message, and hundreds of people at one time are listening into this message. And not only that, but we've had the luxury of even expanding where people have been listening into this message. They've listened in from Belize, from Bahamas, from Jamaica, from Nigeria, from the UK, from India. And so we've had people literally internationally tune into this message. And I share all that with you to tell you that yet and still, even though I've had to come up with all these different messages, even though this has been going on for over 5 years, that the most difficult thing that I had to do when it comes to this Thursday night motivational message is to just simply start. And I'm telling you right now, that was the toughest part. And I remember this as clear as day. I was a guest speaker on a Monday night motivational call for Les Brown. And he still has his Monday night motivational calls. If you haven't had an opportunity to listen in on those calls, I suggest that you do. And I remember I was a guest speaker on that call. And I remember there was one particular young lady who heard me on the call. And she sent me an email right after the call to say, oh my gosh, Mr. Henriquez, I listened to you on the Monday night call. You were so inspiring. And she asked me, she says, well, do you have your own motivational call? Do you have your own motivational message that you do on a weekly basis? And I said, no, I don't at the moment. And she says, well, I think you should. And when you do, I definitely will be the first one to sort of dial in and join you. And so I remember, at that particular time, I forget what I said. I said I was busy. I was going to see if I could fit it in my schedule. And then I remember her following up with me about a month or two later, and she's saying, "Hey, did you ever start your own motivational movement, your own motivational call?" And I said, "No, I'm busy. I'm trying to figure out what night or evening I should do mine on. I've got some prior commitments and so forth." And so I was coming up with all these excuses, and maybe perhaps you can relate to that. That there's something that you've been wanting to start, you've been meaning to start, and every time it's time for you to start it, you start coming up with some great excuses. And so you allow those excuses to keep you from moving forward. And so every single time she checked in, I came up with another excuse. And then finally I had a reality check, and I said, "Well, wait a second, Andy." I said, "Wait a second. Monday night motivational calls being conducted by your mentor, Mr. Les Brown, one of the top 5 speakers in the world. Les Brown, who literally travels all across the country and internationally. This is Les Brown, who has spoken to audiences in excess of 80,000 people at one time. Les Brown, whose average hourly speaking rate is $50,000. And that Les Brown can do a call every Monday and has been doing that call every Monday for over a decade. And you, his disciple, you, his mentee, are saying that you're too busy to come up with your own call." And what I realized is I was hiding out. What I realized is that I was making some excuses. And so I decided to do something radical. And I won't forget this. At that particular time, there was something called the flip camera. And I don't know if you guys remember, this was before cell phones became super popular. There was this thing called the flip camera. And what the flip camera allowed you to do was to go ahead and record a very quick video and then connect the camera to your computer through a actual USB port. And you could take the video directly, put it on your computer, and then post it on YouTube or wherever you're going to put it. And so this was before the cell phone cameras were great and people used their cell phones to record videos. And so this flip camera was like some great technology. So I remember I got my flip camera, I handed it to my cousin, and I looked on my calendar and I made the decision that I was going to do my Thursday night Show Up for Your Life motivational call every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. And so I told my cousin to go ahead and hold that flip camera, press the record button. As soon as he did, I said, "Hey, this is Andy Henriquez. I got a very big announcement to make. No, I'm not getting married. No, I don't have a kid on the way. But the big announcement is that I'm about to start my Thursday night Show Up for Your Life motivational movement conference call. And the very first call is going to take place on boom." And I gave them the exact date. And so I remember after shooting that video, then posting it, and I said, now I went ahead and made the move. I started, so now I got to move. And so because I put it out there, and I knew the moment that one person saw that video, I had somebody to hold me accountable. And so I shot that video, I put it out there, and now I realized, wait a second, Andy, no more excuses. You put it out there now. And so right away I had to find myself a conference call line. Right away I had to figure out who was going to be the host for the Thursday night Show Up for Your Life motivational movement. So at that time, I remember putting in a phone call to our previous host, Star Babatoon, and I told her that I was going to be doing the call. And Star actually used to be the host of Les Brown's Monday night motivational call. And so I called up Star. I said, "Star, listen, I'm going to start the Thursday night Show Up for Your Life motivational movement. Will you be the host for the call?" She said, "I'll go ahead and help you out for a couple weeks." I said, "Great." I remember the very first call, thinking and thinking about, oh my gosh, what am I going to share? It's the first call. How many people are going to be on the line and so forth. And then I forget the very first call. I forget how many people. It probably was something around like 50 people or something for the very first call. And I remember actually ending that call and thinking to myself, I did it. I got started. And here we are, literally 5 years later. Here we are, having delivered this message from all types of countries. Here we are with literally hundreds of people who listen in each time, and literally thousands of people who have listened over time. Here we are with literally over probably 300 motivational messages that have been delivered, and all because I was willing to get started. And so here's what I say to you right now. And so maybe perhaps you've been sitting on the sideline, or you've been hiding out, as I like to say. Right now is the time for you to start. And yes, I know it's difficult, but sometimes you just have to make your move and then figure it out. And so part of me making my move was pulling out that flip camera, making that announcement, and then going ahead and sending out that email to let people know that I was going to be launching a Thursday night show up for your life motivational movement. And now I made my move, and now I had to figure it out. And so sometimes you just got to make your move and start writing the book. Sometimes you just got to make your move and make the phone call. Sometimes you just got to make your move and register for the class. Sometimes you just got to make your move and start the business. But here's what I know: whatever you do, stop giving in to the excuses, stop hiding out, and just start. Listen, Zig Ziglar said it best. He said, you don't have to be great in order to get started, but in order to become great, you have to get started. And some of us have these great lofty dreams and great things that we want to accomplish. But at the end of the day, you won't be able to be great in your gifting. You won't be able to be the great author, the great entrepreneur, the great business owner, right? The great employee, the great master's graduate student, or whatever it is that is on your to-do list. You won't be great at it if you don't at least first get started. And so what precedes greatness is getting started. And so I want to commission you right now to get started. I want to commission you right now to stop hiding out, to stop sitting on the sidelines and coming up with all these elaborate excuses as to why you haven't really moved, why you haven't moved forward. And so I think about even right now, what I have the honor, and I like to call it the honor, what I have the honor to be able to do, to be able to share these motivational messages, to go into corporations, nonprofit organizations, to train other speakers and coaches on how to be able to deliver their story and share their story with a lot of passion, conviction, and feeling, and to think about how I've been able to grow a speaking business and be able to impact so many lives, and now more recently to have released the book and some recent television show that I had this past week that I was able to be interviewed, and so grateful for that. But I think about this journey, and I remember that it all started off when I remember I was just looking online when I finally sort of thought about, you know what, about maybe doing this thing called speaking. I remember going online and just looking up different speakers, and then I stumbled across Les Brown. And I remember seeing maybe perhaps one or two of his videos and listening into some of his messages. And I remember finding his website, and I'll never forget this. I went to his website and I saw his bio on his website, and I cut and paste his bio into a Word document. And I remember looking at his bio and doing some dreaming, if you would say. I was literally dreaming of the possibilities, dreaming of the future. And I replaced Les Brown's name with my name. And I edited the bio. So it says that, you know, Les Brown was born in Miami, Florida. I said Andy Henriquez was born, and I happen to also be born in Miami, Florida. And then I said eventually, you know, moved to Plantation. You know, Andy Henriquez went to school at Florida State University, and I was looking where Les Brown, his thing said, you know, that he never went to college. And I was editing his bio and replacing it. And then in the place where it said that he was a dynamic, powerful speaker, I left those words. You know, Andy Henriquez is a dynamic, powerful speaker that leaves a lasting impact on his audience long after he's gone. And I remember writing it down. And then I remember finding an old picture that I had from college, because I didn't have any professional pictures yet at that time. And I took one of my old pictures, and I remember cutting and editing it. And I took the picture, and I remember cutting it off a little piece of paper, printing it out, and then I would take the paper and I put some glue on the back of that little picture, and I glued the picture to the bio. And then I took the bio that was on this 8.5 by 11 piece of paper that had my picture and so forth, and I put it into an actual notepad. And I remember every single day I would open up the notepad and I would just read that bio, right? And this is before I ever even spoke for one audience. This is before I ever really engaged in any type of speaker training. This was before I even stepped foot on anybody's stage or even had opportunities to speak. I was just dreaming of the possibilities, but just the act of dreaming, the act of just putting together that little makeshift vision type of, I guess you'll say, bio, that was the moment that I technically started. And what I started was the dream. What I started was the possibilities. And what I started was what would eventually lead me to making the decision to leave corporate America and go after my goals and my dreams, to start going and getting training by some of the best speakers in the world, to go from seminar to seminar and workshop to workshop, and then eventually start going into different places and organizations and delivering free talks. And then remember again my very first talk where I think I getting paid, where I think I got a whopping like $250 and being excited that I got $250 for 30 minutes. And then eventually get to a point where I got paid, $500. And then get to a point where I got paid a couple $1,000. Then get to a point where I got paid $7,500. And then thinking to myself like, oh my goodness, and how did I get there? If you think about it, what happened is I just had to start. And some of you right now, you're delaying your goals and your dream. You're delaying this thing that you're hoping to do, this thing that you're hoping to make happen because you just haven't started. You just keep coming up with excuses as to why you haven't started writing the book, as to why you haven't started doing the business, as to why you haven't started becoming the coach that you want to be, or whatever it is that you just keep coming up with excuse after excuse. And I'm challenging you right now, this moment, to just simply get started. As I'm sharing this with you, it makes me think about, the other day, one of my cousins had a sweet 16 birthday party for her daughter. And I remember going over to my cousin's house and just sort of sitting there and being at the sweet 16 birthday party, which was being held at her house, and looking at how she went all out for this sweet 16 for her daughter, and just looking at the calculations between the decoration and having the food, the catering, and having certain things set up in the house, and like the display and the layout they had in the backyard and so forth. And so I'm looking at and I'm thinking about, man, this sweet 16, I know she spent at least $10,000 with putting together this party. And then I'm looking up and I'm in her beautiful home, her 2-story home, and I'm looking at her beautiful new construction home in a gated community, probably over 3,500 square feet, in an upper echelon community where all the houses are pretty much going for over $600,000 and so forth. And I'm looking at my cousin and what she's accomplished, and I'm so proud of her. And the reason why I'm so proud of her is because I remember where she started. I remember when she was just simply a cashier at Publix. And there's nothing wrong with being a cashier at Publix, but I remember when she had the entrepreneur bug. And all she did is she went to, I believe, like a garage sale, and she had gotten a book, and she realized that she didn't want the book anymore, and she decided to just put the book for sale online. And I remember when she realized that, wait a second, she bought the book from this garage sale for literally a couple of pennies, like, I don't know, something like under $2. And then she ended up selling that very first book for something like $12 or $15 online. And then she had an aha moment. And she said, my goodness, if I was able to sell that book, I wonder if I could make a business out of it. And then I remember her going from just getting one book to now she was going different places to buying the books. And I remember going to her apartment at the time, her little small apartment when she was still a cashier at Publix. And I remember her having just a little corner, a little stack of books in the corner of books she was selling online. And then I remember that over time, her entire apartment was filled up with books. And then what I remember was eventually when you got to her apartment, literally there was just a walkway where you could go into her kitchen, you can go into the bathroom, and you could go into the bedroom, and everywhere else were books. And now today, she no longer has any books in her house because she has an over 4,000 square foot warehouse that has all her books, and her husband operate a multiple 6-figure book business in which they're selling books online. And what I think about, this all happened because she started. She started with one little book that she decided to put online. And so what I'm trying to make you understand is this: you have no idea as to what is going to happen in your business. You have no idea as to what can happen in your life. You have no idea as to how big and how far your dream, your goals, your gifts can take you if you don't at least make the decision right now to start. And so I'm inviting you to get off the sidelines of your goals and your dreams. I'm inviting you to stop hiding out. I'm inviting you to start coming out onto the dance floor. As a matter of fact, I'll never forget this one particular quote and what it says by H. Jackson Brown. He said, opportunity dances with those who are already on the dance floor, not with those who are hiding out, not with those who don't want to start, but those who are willing to start and at least put themselves on the dance floor. Those who are willing to take a chance on their goals and their dreams. Those who are willing to do something today so that they can reap the benefits tomorrow. And so I don't know what excuses you've been making. I don't know what you've been using in order to hide out. But what I'm inviting you to do is to stop making excuses. I'm inviting you to do something that Steve Harvey refers to as jump. Steve Harvey says that sometimes when you have a goal and a dream and you see other people around you who are soaring, you see other people around you who are having major success, the one thing that separates you from those other people is that they were willing to jump. And what he means by jump is they were willing to start. They were willing to get off the end of the cliff. They were willing to stop getting on the sidelines, and they were willing to go after their goals and their dreams. And what he reminded you is, yes, when you jump, sometimes you may get some bumps and bruises. When you jump, sometimes, you know what, there's going to be some difficulties. When you jump, you may scrape your body up on the side of the cliff, like he would say. When you jump, you may end up real bloody and so forth because of the fact that you're going through some bumps and bruises. But at some point, your parachute will deploy. And that will only happen if you're willing to jump. That's what Steve Harvey said. And what I'm inviting you right now is to start. I want you to jump. I want you to do what Sheryl Sandberg said. I want you to lean in on your goals and your dreams. I want you to do what Andy Henriquez says. I want you to show up. I want you to go ahead and step in right now and do something that's going to allow you to start moving forward on your goals and your dreams. And so let me tell you, it's easy to hide out. It's easy to make excuses. It's easy to keep putting off your goals and your dreams, but at some point, you have to be willing to show up. At some point, you have to be willing to start. And that's why Zig Ziglar said that, listen, you don't have to be great in order to get started. But if you have any intention to do anything great in your life, if you have any intention to be great, then guess what? You have to get started. And so I'm challenging you right now, this moment, to stop hiding out. I'm going to challenge you right now, this moment, to go ahead and start. So I want you to think about, what's that thing that you've been making excuses? What's that thing that you've been putting off? What's that thing that you've been allowing yourself to just continue to hide out and make excuses about? And I want to invite you to just simply start. Now, when you decide to start, I just want you to find what's just one simple thing that you can do. I want you to think about the simplicity. For me, it was pulling out that flip camera and recording that message and go ahead and making the post. And now it's being held accountable. I had to make sure that I started this Thursday night Show Up for Your Life motivational movement. You know, for my cousin, it was just the fact that she was willing to just go ahead and get that one book and put that one book out there for sale. For me, when it came to my speaking, it was because I started off with just getting that little bio of Les Brown and editing that bio, something I never really shared with people. And remember putting that in my notepad and constantly looking at it. Well before I ever did one speech, well before I even thought that, you know, I was going to be doing this full time. I was just dreaming of the possibilities at that time. I was just setting the vision. And someone at one point said that at one point you have to make sure that you write the vision. You got to set the vision. You got to make it plain. And so what I'm saying to you right now is just think of what's that one thing that you can do that's going to allow you to just be able to look in the mirror and say, you know what, I started. And so next time somebody says, well, what about that book? You can say, I started. Somebody said, well, what about that business? You can say, I started. Somebody said, well, what about that degree you wanted? You can say, I started. Somebody said, well, what about that career change that you wanted to do? Guess what? I updated my LinkedIn. I updated my resume. I started. Just so you can simply say that you started, because the hardest thing to do is to simply get started. Then once you get started, all you have to do now is just build some momentum and maintain the momentum. But the hardest thing that you will ever have to do is just start. But you can do it. And so no more excuses. No more putting your dreams on the sidelines. No more delays and no more hiding out. This is your time right now. And all you got to be willing to do is start. No, this wouldn't be Andy Henriquez if I didn't end by telling you this. Show up for your lives, ladies and gentlemen, because if you don't, nobody else will. All right. But listen, I just want to thank you so very much for being part of the Show Up for Your Life motivational movement. And so before we open up the lines, I want to take care of a couple of house cleaning things. Just to let you know, there's been quite a few of you who've been asking me, hey, Andy, when are you going to be opening up and doing another storytelling training? And I just want to let you know that I'm going to be doing a private, small, intimate storytelling training in Fort Lauderdale, Florida at the end of this month on June 25th, which is a Saturday. And so if you know that you have a story and you've been trying to figure out how you can utilize that story, so that you can have more impact, how you can use that story so you can get more paying customers and clients, how you can use that story so you can close more people into your direct sale business, or how you can use that story to become a more powerful and compelling speaker, or how you can use your story so that you can build your coaching program, then you do not want to miss this small, personal, intimate, one-day storytelling intensive in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And of course, I know you want to make your way down to beautiful Fort Lauderdale, Florida in the month of June. It's a wonderful time to be down here. And so if you would like to go ahead and just simply apply so that we can have a very quick conversation so you can get the details and to find out if whether or not you're going to be joining us for the one-day storytelling intensive, I just simply want you to write down this website, and I want you to go there right now, fill out the application. It's going to literally take you 1 minute, less than a minute to fill out the application, and we'll make sure somebody gets in contact with you within 48 hours to give you the details so you can decide whether or not you're going to be joining us. And that website is storywithandy.com. Once again, that is www.storywithandy.com. So that's all spelled out properly, storywithandy.com. So that is going to be the place you can go and put a quick application in so that we can follow up with the phone call and share the details with you and see if you'll be joining us for the one-day storytelling intensive. This is going to be a powerful training that's going to be equipped so that by the time you leave there, you can leave there confidently knowing that you have a good idea of what your signature story is and being more confident in the delivery of your story. We're going to basically spend a day really pulling some of these stories out, working on those stories, give you an opportunity to practice telling those stories with your partners and also getting some live feedback. So that's going to be a pretty awesome training. There is, however, very limited space. And when I do these one-day storytelling intensive, I keep it to a very small amount of individuals to keep the integrity of the training. So this is going to be a small, intimate training. So there are limited seats. I don't intend on taking any more than probably about 10 people for this training. So you want to make sure that you secure your seat right now. Also, of course, if you haven't already done so, make sure you get your hands on the Show Up For Your Life book, 7 Principles to Living an Extraordinary Life. And you can do that by simply going to showupforyourlifebook.com, showupforyourlifebook.com, or if you like purchasing your books on Amazon, you can purchase it on Amazon. It's also available on Kindle. If you are a Kindle owner, you can get it on Kindle, and it's also available on Barnes & Noble's online. So those are all places where you can go ahead and get the book. It doesn't really matter where you get the book. I just want to make sure that you get the book in your hands so that you can make sure that you sort of dive in and start reading that book. And of course, if you haven't already done so, make sure that you join our private Facebook group. You can do that by either going into Facebook and typing in Show Up For Your Life, Show Up For Your Life. You're going to find the closed group. Once you find the closed group, just send us an invitation or a request to join the group, and I will go ahead and we will go ahead and make sure that you get approved to join the group. Also, last but not least, if you haven't connected with me yet, I want to make sure that we stay connected. So you can go to showupforyourlife.com and just simply put in your name and your email address, and I'll make sure we stay connected. So like we always do, I'm going to go ahead and allow Lewis to open up the lines so that we can get your questions, comments, and feedback.